Senator Hemmings is not only the former world champion of surfer and a person who really has a spiritual attachment to the ocean, generally speaking. He was also my surfing instructor. And this is a true story, and he can verify. I actually got up and rode the waves out in front of the outrigger, and he's an excellent teacher, but not just the physical side of surfing to stand and actually ride a wave into shore, which is a thrilling experience, but it's something beyond that with him, and that was the day I really came to understand. It was a beautiful day. We were paddling back out. You could just tell, just to be out there, to be in the ocean and the sun shining on us and looking back at Waikiki, he was in a different element at that point. He has that kind of an attachment to the ocean, to nature in general, and obviously to surfing in particular. For me to sign an executive order, which I've done, making the designations of these historic surfing zones for the state of Hawaii. This executive order does three things. First, it designates 2 areas on Oahu as surfing reserves. The first is the Duke Kahanamoku Surfing Reserve that stretches from the Alawai to the War Memorial Natatorium. The second surfing reserve is on the North Shore, called the North Shore Surfing Reserve, from Ali'i Beach in Haleiwa down to Sunset Beach. So it does what Senator Hemmings was trying to achieve, which is officially designate these 2 areas as recognized surfing reserves in the state of Hawaii to be known worldwide as surfing reserves. Secondly, this executive order permits the Department of Land and Natural Resources to accept gifts that it can then use to designate these 2 areas officially with plaques and other markers to commemorate these surfing reserves. And finally, it encourages local, state, and national collaboration to protect these reserves and allows the Department of Land and Natural Resources to designate them as historic landmarks. So this was a real labor of love for everyone on our side in truly elevating surfing to the place that it deserves in our state, in our history, in our sports world. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure, and it's a privilege for me to introduce a former world champion of surfing, State Senator Fred Hemmings.
Well, Governor, thank you so much. I've been, for the last 7 years, suffering under the illusion that your surfing career was a state secret. I'm glad it's out, but it was a magnificent morning, and I often tell people that we're blessed with probably one of the most unique places in all the world, the Hawaiian Islands. We're an isolated water around us, and there are times when you're out in the ocean, especially here in Hawaii, looking back on these emerald islands and seeing the beauty that we behold when we're surfing, and you think, my God, we're the richest people in the world. Look at what we have. Money cannot buy the blessings that we're given here, and that's what we recognize sometimes in surfing. And we realize it might be a long canoe paddle or something along those lines. Surfing is Hawaii's gift to the world of sports, and I have had the great joy of riding waves and shores of many continents and islands around this world. And when people think of Hawaii, they think of many things, mostly joyful and happy, but they always think of surfing. So surfing really is Hawaii's gift to the world. It's important that we recognize what we are here in Hawaii. And if you think of all the cultures down through the millenniums of history that have ventured out into the seashore for fishing, for war, for commerce, or whatever, only the ancient Hawaiians saw riding waves as a source of pleasure. And the sport almost died off, but it was rekindled in the cradle of modern-day surfing at Waikiki. And Waikiki became the home of our most beloved person in Hawaiian history, I would say, the person we revere the most and love the most. He was a surfer. His name was Duke Kahanamoku. the North Shore of the island of Oahu became the testing ground, and still is to this day the testing ground for all the world's great surfers. And it also is a great part of the commerce of the North Shore. I like to say that surfing is the industry of the North Shore. So, Governor, I'm tremendously appreciative that you, from the executive branch of government, have recognized what we failed to do in the legislature this session. And I think it's very important for me personally to thank people that brought us through the legislature successfully, except for those final moments in the House. I certainly want to thank my colleagues in the House of Representatives that are here today. I want to thank your director, Laura Thielen, for all she did to work with the department, work with us on this initiative. I want to especially thank the captain of the Jewish surf team, Sam Sloan, the only member of the team also, for his, Stam's been the rock I've stood on in the legislature. He's indomitable, and he's always there when you need him. I want to especially thank Senator Fukunaga, who ushered this bill through the legislative process very successfully through the Senate, and it was really kind of humorous because every time we turned around, someone was trying to amend it. Let's put Mackay in, let's take Mackay out. Carol didn't know which way to turn it. Yes, no, maybe so. But Senator Fukunaga, Senator Clayton He, Senator Brickwood Gulateria, who represents Waikiki, were very, very helpful in all this effort. Surfing deserves to be recognized. I oftentimes lament that we are the birthplace of surfing. We are all things great in surfing. And yet, when it comes to some of the cultural and sports leadership of surfing, they're in other places. California has a Surfing Heritage Foundation where they preserve surfing heritage and actually have oral histories of great surfers and the great repository of surfing memorabilia. 3 major surfing museums in California. Australia, of course, initiated surfing reserves as a worldwide effort. And we founded professional surfing here in Hawaii, but the headquarters for professional surfing is down in Australia. Governor, this is an effort, I think, in a right direction for Hawaii to regain its prominence in leadership of surfing, and that's why I appreciate what you've done here so much today. It does make a difference. These 2 places that are pictured here, the North Shore is by far and away the greatest arena of competitive surfing, and I don't think there's any other sport where you can stand on the shoreline within 50 yards of a wave that could kill you. That's how dramatic the pipeline is when it really is happening. And of course, Waikiki dates back to the turn of the century when men were riding 12, 14-foot long surfboards that most people could barely carry to the water. And of course, our beloved Duke Kahanamoku, the patriarch of the modern day sport.
How old will you be when you stop surfing?
Riding a wave is something I plan to do till I die. I'd probably be riding them in canoes because my board surfing. One of the great blessings in my life was to spend the last 3 years of Duke Kahanamoku's life with him as a young surfer, and I used to travel with him publicly. And we were at the Outrigger Canoe Club one day, and we were eating lunch, and he used to eat 2-finger poi and love his lau lau, which they used to serve there, and he was very frail and very old, and he said, "Fred, get my board." And I said, "My gosh, Duke, what do you?" He says, "I want to go surfing." And he's, he couldn't carry his board to the water, and he had this big old tanker. It was like 13 feet long, and he could land airplanes on it. It was so big. And I'll never forget this because it showed what a magnificent relationship this man had with his lifelong mistress, the ocean. And I carried this old board and put it in the water. It was a big old foam board. It was about this wide. And he went to the locker, and he came walking out like this, and he had his little paddle with him and a cushion that he had from his boat, those float. And he put the cushion on the board, he pulled the board near shore, and he sat on the board. And he paddled it out, into the outrigger channel and caught a little wave, and I would guarantee you that was the last wave the man ever caught. But that's the kind of relationship that I think we all have as surfers, that, it's the ocean and the waves are a relationship we carry with us our life.